Hey y'all, this is Josh from THKD. I'm doing my first ever YouTube video, so please go easy on me. But want to start to expand what THKD is all about in terms of not just being a written blog, expanding into videos, perhaps podcasts. I don't know what 2018 holds for THKD totally at the moment, but this is just one of those things I wanted to give a shot, see if we could kind of mix things up a little bit. And so this video is going to be just me briefly talking about Wrestle Kingdom 12, New Japan Pro Wrestling's, their biggest event of the year, kicking things off in January. So much to talk about, but just kind of wanted to break things down as far as a few of the major matches. I'm not going to talk about every match because otherwise this video would be ridiculously long, and let's face it, attention spans are short. So first, just want to talk about the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team match, Young Bucks versus Roppongi 3K. This was a great opener. I think you can always rely on the Young Bucks to get the crowd hyped up, to deliver a great match and really kick things off well. This was a great choice. Young Bucks, seven-time IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team champions, and surely one of, if not the greatest tag teams of the modern era. Roppongi 3K, I think the jury's still out on them. Certainly they came up as young lions. They paid their dues. They worked as the Tempura Boys for a while there. Came back from Excursion, immediately won the junior heavyweight tag team titles, and I'm not sure that was really the right booking decision. I know they wanted to try and make them stars right off the bat, but I sort of feel like they should have maybe worked their way up through the division a little more rather than just all of a sudden, boom, winning the titles right off the bat. I hate to say it, but I was kind of glad to see the titles come off of them. I mean, I'm a huge Young Bucks fan, but I just didn't think Roppongi 3K were quite ready to hold those titles yet. I think they still have a lot of work to do. They're great wrestlers, don't get me wrong, but they still have to need to put in some work and work their way up through the division. So that was a great opener. Next match I want to talk about is Cody versus Kota Ibushi. This was a match I was really looking forward to. Big fan of both guys. Cody especially, since he got away from WWE, I think has just done a phenomenal job of sort of adapting to the Ring of Honor style of wrestling and the New Japan style as well. He gets better and better every time out, and this was by far the best match I've ever seen him in. His heel work was phenomenal. He did a great job playing the heel in this match. And of course, Kota is Kota. I mean, what can you say about Ibushi that hasn't already been said? The guy's a phenomenon. I'm so glad he's back wrestling for New Japan. I was surprised that WWE didn't snatch him up when he was in the Cruiserweight Classic, but for whatever reason, I don't really know the details. Didn't work out between those two parties, so I'm glad to have him back in New Japan. I'm happy he's not wrestling as Tiger Mask W anymore, because I'm sorry, but I realize they have the anime and everything, but I want Kota Ibushi to wrestle as Kota Ibushi. I don't want him wearing a mask and running around with a cape on or whatever. I want Kota Ibushi. So that was an awesome match. I thought Brandy Rhodes did a great job in seconding Cody, being his valet, being his manager, interfering in the match. Played a great heel role in that. Really helped sell the match with her heel work as well. Great job all around from everybody involved there. And then, of course, we got the match there's so many great matches on this thing, but one of the matches I was really anticipating was the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title match. Marty Scurll, the champion, versus Kushida, Will Ospreay, and Hiromu Takahashi. Now we're looking at not just four great junior heavyweights, but in my opinion, four of the best wrestlers in the entire company, if not in the world, all in the same ring at the same time. And it's my understanding this was the first fatal four-way ever in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So a lot to live up to. I thought this match was phenomenal. Marty Scurll, I think, is just one of the greatest wrestlers out there right now. His entrance was so cool with the wings and the plague mask and everything. Very intimidating, very cool looking. He looked like a damn demon So that was really cool to see. Kushida is always amazing. I think he had a great storyline last year. Getting beaten by Takahashi in under 2 minutes, and then working his way back up from that, winning Best of the Super Juniors, then winning the title back. That was just a great story, and he's still, I think, even though he's lost the title since, he's still riding high on that momentum, and he looks great every time he's in the ring. Ospreay, I mean, oh my god, dude. As far as high flyers are concerned, he's a phenomenon. He is just incredible. Always puts on a great performance, has the charisma. He's another guy I'm amazed that WWE hasn't tried to snatch up, because he's just amazing. How they didn't try to get him for the UK tournament, I don't know. Maybe as a contractual thing, I don't know where he was at contractually at that time, but he's amazing and more than deserved to win the title that night. As much as I love Marty Scurll and was kind of hoping he would retain the title somehow, nobody out there is more deserving than Ospreay as far as that goes. Takahashi is also a guy I like a lot. I think he's fantastic. I think his matches with Kushida have been off the hook. His matches with Dragon Lee have been off the hook. I felt like in this little four-way feud leading up to the match, and then in the match itself, he kind of got the short end of the stick. He didn't get a lot of offense in my opinion, which is a shame, because I think he comes up with some fantastic moves. They look risky, they look dangerous, they look real. I thought he kind of got the raw end of the deal. He did execute the two power bombs onto the floor there on Skrull and Kushida, which was cool. But I just felt like he deserved to be able to showcase himself a little more and do a little more in the match. Other than that, though, I really have no complaints about that match either. Freaking phenomenal match. Well worth your time. If you like junior heavyweight wrestling, or light heavyweight wrestling, whatever you want to call it, that is the match to see. Moving on, there was, of course, Tanahashi versus Switchblade Jay White. Tanahashi, of course, is Tanahashi. He's the man. He's the ace of New Japan. He's one of the best wrestlers in the world. He's getting a little older now. He's got some nagging injuries, and whether some of that's storyline or how severe those injuries really are, it's hard to say. But certainly he's had some issues plaguing him the past year or so. Jay White, I don't know. I'm not sold on this Switchblade gimmick. I don't understand why he was immediately upon returning from excursion, why he was pushed into the Intercontinental title scene. I don't understand why he deserved that spot, quite frankly. But then again, I haven't really followed him either. So, maybe he's done more than what I know about, but I'm not into the gimmick. I don't think he is either. He doesn't seem to be. I don't know. I just not sold on it. I think he's a good wrestler, but I'm just not sold on him at the moment. I thought he put on a good match. He showed that he could, for the most part, hang with Tanahashi, but nobody can. Who can really hang with Tanahashi? So that was a little, whatever. It was a good match, but not far from being the highlight for me personally. And I was glad Tanahashi beat him, because, quite frankly, I'm just not sold on him. I think he's got a lot of work to do still. Next, Omega versus Jericho. And this was, of course, the match I was most anticipating. Big fan of both guys. Lifelong fan of Chris Jericho ever since I first saw him. Back in the WCW days, of course, of Nitro was when I first got to see Jericho wrestle, and he's always been one of my favorites. There's few guys that have been able to adapt and evolve throughout the years and maintain their popularity the way he has. And, I think he's one of those once-in-a-lifetime talents that you're just never going to see anything like that again. But certainly Kenny Omega's right up there with him. And it's kind of interesting because both from Winnipeg, both similar height and build, similar wrestling styles. So this was a dream. This really was a dream match. That's not hype to me. This really was the essence of what a dream match is. So it was great seeing this match. It was cool to see Jericho unshackled from the PG confines of WWE to see him go crazy, to go out there and be violent and wreak havoc, and you really, this really felt like a fight. It really felt like they did not like each other. The storytelling and psychology was just off the hook. The way they built the match up beforehand was fantastic. There were so many risky, dangerous-looking spots in this match. It was just something you don't see in New Japan every day. Certainly not something you see in more mainstream wrestling every day nowadays either. I mean, certainly, if you go watch, CZW or whatever else is out, I don't know if they even still have Combat Zone Wrestling or whatever the hardcore promotions are now. You're going to see bloodier matches. You're going to see, barbed wire and thumbtacks and all that stuff. But as far as more mainstream wrestling goes, this just looked like a fight. It looked like they beat the living hell out of each other, and that's, they sold it. They did a great job telling the story, great job building the match, great job executing the match. This was just a great bout all around, and I think people are going to have a hell of a hard time living up to that match. It's a hell of a way to set the bar at the beginning of the year was Omega versus Jericho. I can't say enough good things about that match. Then lastly, we come to, of course, Okada versus Naito, and here again, another phenomenal match. The main event that, I couldn't think of a better main event for Wrestle Kingdom than Okada versus Naito, rather. Okada versus Nitro. Okada versus Naito. Naito, when I first saw him, when I first started watching New Japan, there was nothing about him that stood out. He just seemed like kind of this generic baby face, and the transformation he's gone through since going to Mexico, becoming part of Los Ingobernables, and then bringing that stable or a version of that stable to Japan as LIJ has just been fantastic. I mean, some guys are natural heels, some guys are born heels, and Naito is clearly that. He's the epitome of the cool heel, as they say. I mean, he's talented, he's charismatic, and now he's cool, and now he's finally getting a chance to show all that. Whereas before, the Stardust Genius character that he had before that persona, he wasn't able to show that. Now he's kind of cut loose, and it's just, I think, the best thing he could have possibly done. It's fantastic. And then, of course, you got Okada, who's like the uber babyface character. Not to compare him to Hulk Hogan, but the Hulk Hogan of New Japan, or the John Cena, I guess, whatever. Although some people say Tanahashi is the John Cena, I would say Okada probably is the John Cena now. As far as New Japan, as far as equivalent, not to compare the two, obviously different personas, different wrestling styles, but just that, he's that face of the company, mega babyface character. So these two, Naito and Okada, they're like oil and water, just make for a fantastic rivalry. And the match itself was phenomenal. It was just an old school wrestling match, told a great story, lots of, powerful moves, lots of great counters, did all their signature taunts. It was just one of those matches that everything about that match is everything I love about professional wrestling, to be honest with you. It was just one of those phenomenal matches. My major gripe here was I really thought Naito should have gone over after the year he's had. 2017 was a phenomenal year for him, and it just seemed like a must-win situation for him. It seemed like he was destined at this point to beat Okada at the biggest stage of them all. He came up short, which I thought was an interesting booking decision for New Japan. I mean, I understand that they want Okada to be the face of the company, but at the same time, I think all his title matches have been great in their own way. He's defended against Suzuki, against Omega, now against Naito. They've all been great, but you keep the belt on the same guy for so long, no matter who it is. I don't care who it is, and it starts to get stale. It starts to stagnate, and that's the danger New Japan is in right now as far as Okada's concerned. He feels a little overexposed to me at this point. I really felt like they should get the title on somebody else, and I think a lot of the fun of watching would be then to see Okada chase the title. You know, he sat at the top of the mountain now for so long. It's like pretty soon he's not going to have anybody left to compete with. And if he beats everybody, then, you know, who's going to be a threat to his title? I don't know. So, kind of a weird booking decision in my opinion. I really felt Naito should have won the match, but nonetheless, that didn't stop it from being a great match. And, you know, again, also another one right up there with Omega Jericho that's going to set the bar for pro wrestling in 2018. And then that's about all I had, but just wanted to talk about New Year Dash really quickly. I'm sure you all know, New Year's Dash is the event the night after Wrestle Kingdom, where they kind of start to set the storylines in place for the coming year, or the now this year. What I thought was interesting was Omega running in and saving Ibushi from Cody, setting up some tension in the Bullet Club. Of course, now on social media they're saying it's a dead issue, but I think, you know, they've kind of teased a rivalry between Omega and Cody for a while now, and I think they need to do something with that. I think that could be an interesting little feud within the Bullet Club. You know, I don't really want to see them break up. I love the Bullet Club, but I think it would be kind of cool to see them kind of settle their differences in the ring. I'd also love to see a Ibushi feud with Kenny. I think that would be a great rivalry to see. Of course, they have a long history together as well, so I think that would be really cool to bring that into the now in New Japan. I thought it was weird that they had tried to recruit Jay White to Bullet Club. Like I said, I'm not sold on him. I'm not sure. You know, I realize they're trying to get the promotional machine behind him, but I thought that was weird. I don't know. I guess that's setting up a match between him and Kenny, but he's nowhere near Kenny in terms of ability. So, I mean, they can put him in the ring with Kenny if they want, but he's going to get schooled. I mean, it's simple as that. I thought that was an odd choice. Also interesting about New Year Dash, Jericho. We thought Omega versus Jericho was going to be a one-off, but at the end of New Year Dash, Jericho came out and attacked Naito. I think that will be a great feud if they build it up the same, or, you know, along similar lines as they did the Jericho Omega feud. I think that'll be a really fun one to watch. My only concern is Jericho coming in. Is he only coming in to put over New Japan talent? Is he going to score any victories? You know, I think it would be more interesting to see him and Naito trade victories, you know, so Jericho gets some wins in and looks like an actual threat, as opposed to, oh, he's just going to come in and put some guys over. You know, I want to, you know, he's 47 years old, I believe, and still putting on amazing fucking matches. He needs some wins. Give him some wins. Make him look like a credible threat in New Japan. I mean, he's got the talent. He's, in my opinion, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. So, you know, I hope they do something a little more substantial with him. I mean, not to say that, you know, Kenny, not to say that Jericho versus Omega wasn't substantial. It was phenomenal. But I would like to see him, you know, like I said, score some victories, be involved in a few more matches, not just the big event one-offs. So I hope they do something a little more long-term with him, if they can. I don't know what, you know, he's obviously got his band and what have you. I'm sure WWE will come crawling back to him at some point, but hopefully they do something more with him, because I think it's great having Jericho in New Japan. So thank you for taking the time to watch. This ran a lot longer than I anticipated, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll sound off in the comments what your thoughts on Wrestle Kingdom 12 were, and you know, your thoughts on the booking. And if you disagree with my opinions, if you agree with them, let me know. You know, I want to interact with you guys as much as possible. So until my next video, thanks for watching, and hope you'll check out more of THKD. Thanks.